Happy Friday morning, gang. Okay, end of the week. Let me ask you a question. In the last, 10 or 11 days since Trump won the election, has your blood pressure come down? Has your anxiety come down? Have you maybe relaxed a little bit on your prepping? Even mentally, just thinking. That might not be such a good idea. And I'm going to give you a few reasons why. Sure, we're all caught up in the theater that is Trump's cabinet picks, ambassador picks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of fun to watch. It's enjoyable to watch the liberals squirm after terrorizing the country for the last 4 years just to see them panic. Oh my God, they're going to release the Epstein list or the Diddy list. I'm going to jail. Right? We've all heard all these stories. We've talked about them. We've relished the victory. Let's not get so complacent. I'm going to say this, okay? Sure, we're optimistic about the future of the economy. We're optimistic about deporting millions and millions and millions of illegals, which in turn would reduce crime. We're hoping that interest rates come down, grocery prices come down, mortgage rates come down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I want you to remember something. With all the fun that we're having here in the last week, Joe Biden's still president. Kamala Harris is still vice president, and they will be for more than the next 2 months, okay? Happy days may be in the future, may be. We got to get there first. And even once we do, it's not like flipping a light switch and go, oh, okay, the world's a different place. The rest of the world has seen that Donald Trump was elected too. And they all know, okay, there's a new sheriff in town. Things are going to be different with U.S. policy. I mean, they're seeing Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State, or Mike Waltz, let's pronounce his name right. They've seen Tulsi Gabbard as DNI. They know that the U.S. isn't going to be the patsy that they have been for the last 4 years. And so they may attempt to do something different. I guarantee you that the rest of the world's plans going forward have changed. No question. They are going to bob and weave according to how they can handle the United States as well. But what happens in the next 2 months, and why should we be prepared? Why should we continue to be preparing? Why maybe we should be actually turning it up and moving into 6th gear, because things can get a lot closer. Face it, guys, we are the World War III generation. All of us, boomers, Xers, millennials, Zoomers, all of us combined are the World War III generation. It's coming, and it might come sooner than you think. And this is why we need to ramp up our preparation. Let's take a look at what's happened this week. The commander-in-chief of the Iranian army, Major General Syed Abdolrahim Mousavi, sorry, my Farsi isn't that good, has promised a crushing blow to Israel. His quote, "We will determine the time and manner of our response. There will be no hesitation when the time comes, and our reply will surely be crushing." The deputy commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, said, quote, "The entire world will bear witness as to the complete downfall of the Zionist regime fulfills the triumph of righteousness over falsehood." Iran has said that they are going to put a devastating attack on Israel, and we don't know when, The Iron Dome has been depleted. So if they keep rockets, missiles, shells, whatever, going into Israel, eventually some are going to get through. But what about the response? Okay. Well, Benjamin Netanyahu has said that if Iran does anything, that Israel's going to respond by attacking Iran's oil fields. I want you to just think for a second what that would do to the worldwide price of oil. We can pump all we want. We can drill, baby, drill. 2 months from now, when Trump gets in office. But what if this attack goes down this weekend? We ain't drilling. And it's not like we start drilling and they have a pipeline directly from the oil fields in Alaska or Texas or Pennsylvania or whatever, and it goes straight to your gas station. Okay. The Israeli defense minister, he wants to go even further. He wants to go after Iran's nuclear facilities. Then let's add the fact that President Erdogan of Turkey this week officially severed all diplomatic ties with Israel. They're a NATO member. Kind of puts us 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Remember, you attack one, you attack all. If all of a sudden Turkey does something to Israel, Israel would respond. Now what do? Do we honor our NATO agreement and side with Turkey against Israel? Or do we honor our agreements that we have with Israel and stop Turkey? That's a little conundrum we have that we got to figure out. None of this is good, okay? But it gets worse. How about Russia, Ukraine? This week, for the first time since August, Russia had a massive military attack, missiles, okay, on Kyiv. They've been stockpiling their missiles for 3 months and decided, let's unload on the Ukrainian capital. The Ukrainians were expecting it. The Ukrainians are losing the war. We know it, they know it, everybody in the world knows it. Okay. If it wasn't for the U.S. assistance, don't tell me squat about Europe. Europe isn't doing shit comparatively to what the U.S. is doing. If it isn't for the U.S. assistance, Ukraine would have fallen 2 years ago. And in 2 months, the checkbook dries up. We're not sending any more money. Tony Blinken came out yesterday and said, we're going to do whatever we can to get all the money that we can to Ukraine before January 20th, right? They are still hell-bent on feeding Zelensky as much money as they can. Why, we have no idea. It's kickbacks, the whole 9 yards, money laundering. That's what we know. Hey, they need somehow to pay their defense lawyers when they're all sitting in front of Congress, waiting to go to jail for treason. But Ukraine knows they're losing. A cornered animal will do whatever it takes to get out of its situation. Ukraine has now got to the point where they said they are considering using spent plutonium from the 9 nuclear facilities they have in Ukraine, to remind people, Chernobyl, y'all remember that one? Chernobyl was a nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Ukraine has 9 nuclear power plants, spent plutonium. They are considering using that spent plutonium to make dirty bombs. They have the technological know-how to do it. Now I want you to think about this. If Ukraine decides to start hitting Russia, or even Russians, with dirty bombs. How long do you think, loving my voice this morning, how long do you think it is till Russia retaliates with a full-blown nuclear strike and obliterates Ukraine from the map? Now let's think about what that does. Ukraine's the breadbasket, literally, of Europe. Okay, most of the grain that is consumed in Europe comes from Ukraine. Yeah, that would cause a drastic rise in food prices around Europe, which then means Europe would be buying it from the United States, which then means we'd see a drastic rise in food prices because supply and demand is pretty freaking simple. Okay. But that's not it. Let's keep going. How about China, Taiwan, guys? All right. Taiwan's made it known that they're interested in purchasing, which shocks me, didn't just say give me, okay, $15 billion worth of military equipment from the United States, including an Aegis destroyer, 60 F-35s, 4 advanced Hawkeyes, 10 retired naval vessels, and 400 Patriot missiles. Needless to say, China isn't happy. When's China going to go into Taiwan? Now? Are they going to wait for Trump? All these things could happen before January 20th. Imagine instead of Thanksgiving dinner, you're sitting down in your bunker or trying to protect yourself from nuclear fallout. Imagine you are sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table or Christmas dinner table talking about your son or your daughter or your grandson or your daughter who just got drafted because we're in a war somewhere. Joe Biden's still president, guys. May not know it. Hell, with the exception of his dog and pony show with Trump the other day, we haven't seen or heard from him basically since July. Don't rest on your laurels right now. This isn't the time to get complacent. This isn't the time to go, oh, happy days are here again. We're going to have a new president and Trump's got a magic wand and he's going to make it all good. Trump is not the Messiah, guys. He's one man. He's got different ideas. There's a whole lot of other one men in the world, one women too, who have very different ideas on what they want to do. The President of the United States may be the most powerful man in the free world. But what about the parts of the world that aren't free? Like, I don't know, China or Iran or Russia. They really don't give a shit about what we do. They're going to act in their own best interests. And in turn, some way, whether it's militarily, whether it's economically, we're involved. You need to keep doing what you've been doing for the last 4 years. This is not going to turn on a dime. The world is not going to all of a sudden throw its hands up and go, kumbaya, peace amongst men. It ain't happening. The Russians and the Ukrainians aren't going to sit down and go, oh, I'm sorry, honey, let's get together again. Iran and Israel are not going to shake hands and share a glass of wine. Okay? China still believes it has absolute authority and absolute right to the Taiwanese island. These problems aren't going away. These problems are only getting closer and closer and closer to blowing up, literally. We need to be ready for whatever comes our way. Hey, maybe Antifa and BLM are dead forever. Maybe we get rid of all these illegals. That's great. But what happens when we're not worried about Venezuelans and Salvadorans in the United States? We're worried about Chinese or Hezbollah here, and that happens. What happens when they bring the war here? That's what you're prepping for. Hopefully, our economic threat is behind us. Not that I'm ever going to tell you don't get out of debt, but militarily and economically, we need to be ready. We should still be prepping as though nothing's changed, because one day you're all going to benefit from it, and nobody knows what day that is. Pinball out.